Welcome back to Medrash U'Maisa, sharing a story for this week's Parsha, Parshas Matos-Maasei. This story was told by the Kloisenberger Rebbe, Rabbi Yekusiel Yehuda Halberstam Zatzal, whom we mentioned last week, and it was a story he heard from a Rav called the Rav of Nasad. Now he said the Rav of Nasad told him that when he was a young man, he lived in a certain town, and there was a man in that town who was cruel, abusive, angry, and especially towards his wife. He did know how to drive a wagon, though, and deal with horses. So a group of young men from the town wanted to go to visit, to learn from the Kloisenberger Rebbe's great-grandfather, Rav Chaim of Sanz. So they hired him to drive the wagon. When they arrived in Sanz, they found their lodgings, and soon it was Shabbos. Now, Shabbos morning, the custom in Sanz was that the Rebbe would tell the Gabbai who to call up for the Aliyahs. And if there were guests, the Gabbai would come and let the Rebbe know which guests there were and if they had received or not received an Aliyah yet. So the wagon driver did come to Shul, and the Gabbai approached the Rebbe and mentioned his name. And the Rebbe made a motion as if to say, not yet. A couple of aliyos later, he again mentioned them to the Rebbe. Once again, the Rebbe said, not yet. And then he called him up. The Rebbe said to call him up for the upcoming aliyah. It was in Parshas Maasei that week, and it was the part which was speaking about the Arei Miklat, the cities of refuge for someone who killed by accident, but also what is considered a person who kills intentionally. The Rebbe himself was the Baal Koreh, Rav Chaim of Sanz. And when he got to the pasuk that said, V'im b'chli barzel hiko, if he struck him with a metal instrument, vayomos, and the victim died, Rotzeach hu, the man is a murderer. And here the Rebbe said in a thunderously loud voice, Rotzeach hu, and the entire shul shook and were frightened. And then he finished the pasuk, Mos yomus harotzeach, the murderer shall die. Now, the wagon driver who got the aliyah immediately assumed that the people who came with him from his town had told the Rebbe about his behavior at home, and he became very angry with them. They actually managed to convince him to believe that they really had not told the Rebbe anything. Somehow the Rebbe had sensed with his Ruach HaKodesh what the man was doing. When the man suddenly realized that, he had a total turnaround. He changed entirely, not just in terms of his temper and his behavior and his abusiveness, but he became a very fine Jew. Tzaddikim say, said the Kloisenberger, that it wasn't just that the Rebbe was threatening him when he read that pasuk. When he said the words, Mos yumas harotzeach, the murderer will die, he was killing, so to speak, the murderous aspects of that man's character. He managed to remove that from him to enable him to do tshuva and to become a different person. The Rav of Nasad said that the man's wife came to his house multiple times to give him brachas and thank him for taking her husband along on that trip and enabling him to become a very decent and pleasant and beloved person. So that definitely fits in with Parshas Maasei, both about the context of the psukim, which were in Parshas Maasei, but also about the idea of journeys. Our whole life is journeys. The Degel Machne Ephraim brings from his grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov, that all of us go through 42 journeys like Am Yisrael did, as described in the Parsha, in the Midbar, and all of them have a purpose. Sometimes we have to travel someplace just to hear a few words that can transform us and enable us to live a better life. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbat.